The subject for today's Movie Fiend's favorite will be A Bittersweet Life. This is a film directed by Jee-woon. It is one of the first Korean films I've ever seen, so that's why it has a very special place in my heart. The movie came out in 2005, and I watched it probably a year or two after on Daily Motion, and I've seen it 3 times since. Also from the library, they had to skip in the disc and then again on the Canopy app. But this movie is so hard to pin down in terms of genre. It is a crime thriller film, but it is also a drama. It's also an action movie. It's also a revenge story, a bit of a love story. It's all sorts of things. It sort of elevates itself by being more than just one thing. Kind of like how Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight isn't just a superhero movie. It's a, searing crime thriller, epic drama about corruption and good and evil and justice. It's more than just the one thing. So this movie, at a first glance, is a crime thriller film revenge story, but it's also many things. It also is pretty ballsy to be very artsy. The movie has amazing cinematography. The plot is basically we're following Kim Sun-woo. He is an enforcer that runs a hotel and works for President Han. So he's a gangster of sorts. He's really good at fighting. And in the opening sequence, he stops a couple of hooligans from making a scene, and he's having a chat with the boss. And we find out immediately what kind of man his boss is. His boss is a no-nonsense, don't lie to me, no mistakes or you're dead sort of man. The movie really likes to dwell on character development. Nothing really happens for the first 45 minutes of this film. So then the second half is basically a revenge action story, really slickly directed and violent. The first half is more of a drama, crime thriller film, developing all the characters before putting them through hell. So Kim Sun-woo basically has to babysit the boss's girlfriend while he's out of town and find out if she's cheating on him. And he follows her around for a few days and decides against better judgment to let her go when she transgresses. And of course, then he faces the wrath of his boss. The two of them come to blows, and it ends up being a ridiculously well shot, acted, directed revenge scene. The movie's super artsy too. The thing about this film is that it predates a lot of things because it was one of the first international Korean films to sort of blow up. Korean cinema, South Korean cinema, didn't really blow up until the early 2000s with Park Chan-wook's Old Boy or Bong Joon-ho's The Host. Those in 2003-ish, 2004-ish. This one was 2005. So when, this movie's a little bit different from your usual Korean gangster film, but not a lot of people have seen Korean gangster films before this one or knew what Korean gangsters are all about. A lot of people know what Yakuza are. They're the guys that run around with tattoos and chop off fingers if they make a mistake and attack each other with swords and guns. And, the cliches of the genre. Korean cinema gangsters are different because they don't really use guns usually, but they do in this movie. And Sun-woo essentially is put through the ringer and has to go up against his boss. And the movie manages to be really artsy. There's a weird juxtaposition in the film because they use classical music, the beautiful cinematography when people are getting shot or getting cut or bleeding. So it's kind of like off-putting because the movie almost looks operatic at times because characters are getting shot or getting stabbed, and then there's opera music and slow motion used. The movie has some terrific action set pieces. There's the main one in the middle, a sort of large conflict between him and his boss, and then from then on there's maybe 2 or 3 more that are pretty solid. The movie is unflinchingly brutal. Lots of amazing character development. It's probably the best performance of Byung that we have so far. I mean, he's done other films, but this is one of probably his career best, to be honest. So that's why A Bittersweet Life is a Movie Fiend's favorite for me.